And the next speaker up is going to shut it down. We have Miss Lisa Anderson, and she's going to be speaking on the power of influence, presence, and perseverance for women leaders. Lisa Anderson is the president of Positivity in Pursuit, LLC. Lisa is a certified leadership career coach who also has 25 years of HR experience. Her coaching business focuses on women in leadership who want to intentionally work on finding their leadership voice, building their leadership courage, and increasing their leadership executive presence so that they can propel their careers. With her expertise in HR, she also helps employees and managers deal with conflict and issues in the workplace. Let's take it to the next level.
Thank you so much. So there are fewer women in leadership than men named John. Let me repeat that. There are fewer women in leadership positions than men named John. Can you believe in the U.S. that women make up nearly half of the labor force, but only slightly over a third of management positions? And if we break that down even more, white women hold 32.5% of those management positions, followed by Latina women at 4.1%, then black women at 3.8%, and then Asian women at just 2.4%. No wonder I had the experiences that I had moving up the ranks in corporate America, and why I felt there was a struggle. 40% of U.S. businesses are owned by women. So whether you are a leader on your job, in your 9-to-5, or whether you are the CEO of your business, there are 3 things that you can master to increase the opportunities for success, whatever success looks like for you. Mastering the skill of influence, presence as in executive presence, and perseverance can go a long way. Now, I grew up in a 2-parent, lower middle class household. My parents have a high school education and they both worked. I did not have a stay-at-home mom. My mom and my dad, they worked. And I am the only child. Now, I remember when I was 10 years old, I saw a commercial about going to college. And I went to my mom and I said, "Mom, I want to go to college." And of course, my mom encouraged me. She said, "You can do anything you want to do. As long as you put your mind to it, you can do anything you want to do." So of course, I went to my dad. And I'm excited, and I said, "Dad, I want to go to college." Now, my dad, being the realist that he is, he said to me, "Honey, I'm afraid we're not going to be able to afford to send you to college. We don't have the money." So that stopped me in my track. I was confused. I was upset. I started crying. And I went running back to my mom, and I said, "Mom, Dad said we're not going to be able to send me to college. We don't have the money to send me to college." Now, why did I do that? My mom went to my dad, and I feel bad because I set him up, right? My mom went to my dad, and she said, "Don't you ever tell my daughter that she can't do something. If she come to us and tell us she want to go to college, oh, she going to college. I'm not going to force her to go to school, but if she wants to go to college, I don't care how many jobs we working, she is going to college." And you know, my dad, again, I felt so bad. I had set him up. He had that look on his face, and he was like, "Oh, okay." But from that point forward, I never recall my dad telling me I couldn't do something. So when I got to high school around my sophomore, junior year, college was starting to become a reality. But I knew deep down in my heart, I knew my parents could not afford to send me to college. Just like other families, we were living paycheck to paycheck. But I just knew, I says, I don't know how, but it's gonna work out. So I didn't qualify for any financial aid because both of my parents worked and both of them were still together. So my parents took out loans. They took out a second mortgage on the home. We had just moved into our first house a few years prior, and they had taken out a second mortgage on that house to send me to college. And I knew the stakes were high, and I knew I had to come out in 4 years, no ifs, ands, buts about it. I knew it. So that early experience shaped me as a working professional. I had this motivation and this drive when it came to my career in human resources. I had this thirst to learn as much as I could about the HR field. But what I quickly started to realize, and I quickly started to notice and observe, that people were getting job opportunities in my company and around me where they had more skills than just their technical knowledge. And how many of you got to notice and observe what's going on around you in these workplaces? And so I started noticing and observing. It's like, okay, I'm a quick learner here. So the first thing that I noticed, and I made an intention on working on this, was the ability to be able to influence other people. There is a skill about influencing people. And how many of you know, just because you got a job title, that don't mean you got influence, right? So the greatest example I saw of influence was at a company I worked for. The executive assistant to the president had the greatest influence. At the time, I was the VP of HR, and my colleagues and I, we were the senior leadership team for this division. And so my colleagues and I, we knew if we wanted to meet with our boss, we had to go through her. She managed or controlled, whichever way you want to look at it, his calendar. She made the decision on who met with our boss. And so my colleagues and I, as the senior leadership team, we knew that and we respected it. Our president, he trusted her. He knew she had his back. And so what did she have that made her have the power of influence? That's what she had. She had the relationship with our boss. She had the trust. She had credibility. She had the voice. He listened to her and he respected her. There was a mutual respect between the two of them. And guess what? I was noticing and observing, right? It's like, wow, what she has, you got to have those skills and qualities in order to be able to influence. The second thing that women leaders need to have is executive presence. What is executive presence? Executive presence is when you have a physical, a mental, and emotional presence about you. We've all seen that person that walk in the room and they have this confidence and this swag about them and they haven't even opened their mouth, right? So from a physical standpoint, it's that confidence, that swag. From a mental standpoint, this person may have a mastery of their craft. They appear to be very credible. They may have a strong business acumen. This person may have the ability to connect with people in the room in an authentic way, which may lead to they have a high level of emotional intelligence. How many of you know a person that have great executive presence? I know of one, totally my opinion, and I'm not trying to be political, but Barack Obama has excellent executive presence, as well as Michelle.
Yes.
They both have that something about them that confidence, and that sway. So if you know of someone with a great executive presence, what is it about them? That's something that I intentionally worked on in my career as I was moving up the corporate ranks. The third thing that women leaders have to have is the ability to persevere. Because as a woman leader, times are gonna get tough. And you need that support system, whether it is internal to your company or organization or external. Me personally, I went external. Because as I was moving up the corporate ranks, a lot of times I was the only woman on teams, and a lot of times I was the only woman of color. So I went outside of my organization for that support system. And I think back to that time when I was 10 years old and my dad telling me, we don't have money to send you to college, and my mom swooping in and being that support system. Now, I didn't know what that was when I was 10 years old, but I'm so glad she stood up for me. And to this day, both my parents, my mom and my dad, they are a strong support system for me. So in closing, what if the tables were turned? What if the statistic was there are fewer men in leadership positions than women named Linda? I like the sound of that, right? Fewer men in leadership positions than women named Linda. I am on a mission to get that statistic turned around, or at least level the playing field. Because women, we are a powerful being. We make up nearly half of the labor force, and we own 40% of US businesses, and it's growing. So this is not impossible. This is not impossible. My goal is to do my part in helping and supporting women so she can walk in the power of her influence, the power of her executive presence, and to not let anything get in the way of her perseverance. Thank you. I am Lisa Anderson. My company is Positively in Pursuit. Thank you, SpeakerCon 2019. Woo!